Trump and Africa is a love story that never was. While his predecessors took Africa to dinner and made heartfelt toasts, Trump didn't even text back. George W. Bush launched PEPFAR, saving millions of lives. Obama danced with kids and hyped entrepreneurship. Trump, he skipped the dance floor entirely and asked, "Wait, Africa has 54 countries? That's a lot." The infamous shithole countries comment in 2018 was like showing up to a meeting in pajamas. Impossible to ignore and wildly inappropriate. The African Union and various leaders responded with what can only be described as the diplomatic version of an eye roll. Trump's response? Something along the lines of, "But I love the Nigerians. They live in huts, but come to America and make tons of money." Yes, he actually said that in 2015. But what about the Prosper Africa mystery? Trump's Prosper Africa initiative was announced in 2019 with great fanfare. Its goal was to double trade and investment between the US and Africa. The execution, however, was more figure it out yourselves. The initiative sounded good on paper, but lacked concrete plans, leaving African leaders thinking, is this an actual program or just a really long TED Talk? And then there was China, the elephant in the room. While Beijing was busy building railways, ports, and even football stadiums across the continent, Trump accused them of debt-trap diplomacy. He was like the guy at a potluck who shows up with a box of crackers and criticizes someone else's gourmet lasagna. China was offering loans, infrastructure, and no lectures. Trump was offering, well, some PowerPoint slides and a hearty good luck. One memorable moment came when Trump reportedly couldn't pronounce Namibia during a speech, saying Nambia instead. Namibians took it in stride, joking, maybe we'll get aid if we change our name. Bombs away, but don't call it war. Under Trump, the US launched more airstrikes in Somalia than ever before, targeting al-Shabaab like it was a personal vendetta. In 2020 alone, there were 63 strikes, more than Obama's entire second term. It was clear Trump preferred drones over diplomacy. If diplomacy was a chess game, Trump was the guy flipping the board and yelling, "Let's just fight." Yet despite this aggression, Trump wanted to reduce US-style troops in Africa. His administration planned to pull forces from the Sahel, even as terrorist groups like Boko Haram and ISIS West Africa were gaining ground. Pentagon officials probably looked at each other like, did he just say let someone else handle it? Spoiler alert, no one else stepped up. Meanwhile, African countries quietly worried about losing US support. It's one thing to say America first, but Africa didn't want to be dead last. To Trump, aid is overrated, except when it's not. Trump viewed foreign aid the same way he viewed paying taxes, unnecessary and deeply annoying. He proposed cutting funding for programs like PEPFAR, which had saved over 20 million lives since its inception. Fortunately, Congress stepped in with a big nope, ensuring these life-saving initiatives continued. On paper, Trump's push for Africa to become more self-reliant wasn't a bad idea. Prosper Africa aimed to move the continent from aid dependency to trade partners. The problem? Telling a nation, pull yourself up by your bootstraps doesn't work when they don't have boots. African leaders were like, cool, but how about some infrastructure first? Even when Trump supported development, his reasoning was, let's say, unconventional. He once praised Tanzania's fight against terrorism, not because it was noble, but because they buy our helicopters. Trump 1.0 engineered how to lose friends and alienate countries. Trump's travel bans, which included countries like Nigeria, Sudan, and Eritrea, left many Africans wondering, wait, do you actually know how important Nigeria is? Nigeria, after all, is Africa's largest economy, a tech hub, and home to Nollywood, one of the world's largest film industries. But instead of celebrating Nigerian innovation, Trump essentially said, you're banned. The African diaspora in the US wasn't thrilled either. Trump's rhetoric on immigration often painted Africans as either geniuses, they're all doctors, or a burden. Why are they coming here? It was like a bad sitcom where the characters can't decide whether to hug or fight. Meanwhile, African leaders took a pragmatic approach. They smiled and nodded through awkward meetings, thinking, if we just wait him out, maybe the next guy will bring snacks. Trump's 1.0 Africa policy was like trying to bake a cake without following the recipe. Some good intentions, lots of improvisation, and a final product that left everyone confused. While there were some bright spots, like the launch of Prosper Africa, the lack of follow-through and controversial rhetoric overshadowed any progress. Africa probably filed Trump under rubber. That one guy from the party we'd rather not talk about. Here's hoping the next U.S. administration brought dessert. In both Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0, his Africa policy would remain transactional. No sweeping initiatives like Obama's Power Africa or Bush's PEPFAR. Instead, Trump would treat Africa like a business deal. What's in it for us? His speeches might feature lines like, "We've done so much for Africa, more than anyone. And what do we get in return? It's time for Africa to step up." African leaders, meanwhile, would quietly prepare Plan B, more deals with China and Europe, with occasional side-eye at Trump's tweets. Trump 1.0 introduced Africa to a mix of neglect, drones, and awkward missteps. Trump 2.0 would likely amplify the same themes: bigger promises, fewer visits, and a whole lot of tweets. African nations might view Trump's second term as a reality show, entertaining, exhausting, and best watched from a safe distance.